So Andrew Tate has been a man who, while still having some levels of prominence, hasn't really been a big figure in, I would say, like, the online sphere for quite a while. Like, he still has a very cult following, but I think a lot of, like, the, big fuss over him, his time in the spotlight very much came to an end around the time that he was literally arrested in Romania. And there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening, like, in between. He was able to go to the United States at one point, mostly due to the Trump administration. But now he and his brother Tristan are facing new charges in the UK this time.
Influencer brothers Andrew and Tristan Tate have been charged with rape and other crimes in Britain, according to British prosecutors. The Crown Prosecution Service says the charges were authorised last year, and this is the first time they are being confirmed. Andrew Tate faces charges related to 3 women that include rape, actual body harm, human trafficking, and controlling prostitution for gain. Tristan Tate faces charges related to 1 woman that include rape, human trafficking, and actual body harm. The Tates were arrested in Romania in late 2022 and formally indicted last year on charges that they participated in a criminal ring that lured women there where they were allegedly sexually exploited. They have denied all of the allegations in Romania. Romanian courts have issued an order to extradite the 2 to the UK once their case is concluded in there, British prosecutors said. The whereabouts of the brothers was not immediately clear. They were photographed a week ago outside a police station in Romania, where they have to report to regularly while facing charges there.
Now, the only reason I'm really bringing this up is, like, A, it's great that they're facing more consequences for their actions. We'll see where this goes. I believe, like, the whole Romanian case is still being worked on. It's been some time, and for the most part, I feel like they lost a lot of their, like, mainstream credibility. It also doesn't help that the last thing that I saw of, like, Andrew Tate on the timeline was the fact that he was, like, promoting that fucking Hitler song that Kanye put out. That I was going to cover when it came out if it wasn't for the fact that I was taking a break at the same time, because Ben Shapiro had a very funny take on the entire thing, but that's a whole other story. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because around the same time, even though these stories really have nothing to do with one another, this all kind of comes under the same sphere of, creators who audiences are mostly, like, younger men. Seemingly, like, Andrew's, claim to fame is that he was trying to be, like, a guiding hand for young men in the world, trying to give them guidance, even though he was completely fucking disgusting, misogynistic, definitely had a very checkered past that came to light with more stuff that came out about him. He's someone who, if he would have just stayed in the dark, he probably would have been able to at least be pretty successful, but he obviously wanted to make himself, like, the biggest name in the world. And the thing is that, like, when you do that, when everyone knows who you are, there's going to be a lot of people trying to look into who exactly you are. And the thing with Andrew Tate is that he wasn't exactly very protective of what he put online. So there was a bunch of stuff that came out about him, about, like, some of his older content as well, that was very questionable, very questionable. But again, we're not here to really discuss that. We're mostly here to discuss, like, it's been a topic that's been taking place, especially ever since Trump won the election, which is young men online, like, and figureheads in that community. And this kind of brings us to another story where Jake Tapper went on a podcast and essentially complained about being on another podcast, because everything's a goddamn podcast these days. But this is a clip from Jake Tapper where he's talking about an appearance on another podcast he went to and the comments that they had about his son when they were discussing it.
I went on a left-leaning podcast that shall remain nameless, and we were talking about my kid, because I think they were both people without kids. And they asked me about my son, and I said he was, he's a football player, and he wants to be a policeman. And their joke was about my 15-year-old son, oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist, my son. And, like, that was the big laugh, and then I got dragged in the comments and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, this is why you fuckers are losing elections.
100%.
Like, my football-playing son, who has no political views, he's 15. He thinks about World War II and gaming and playing linebacker. That's
He doesn't have any interest in politics, but he's really into World War II. Also, he's a 15-year-old kid. More than likely, a lot of the content creators that will appear on his For You page are going to be people who may or who are at the very least are going to have like some political leaning to them. Like Aiden Ross, for example. Aiden Ross is the type of guy that his son would probably see on his For You page, and Aiden Ross has not been quiet about the fact that he is very like pro-Trump, very Republican in a lot of senses. So it's like, don't kid yourself. You're just not paying attention to what your son's doing. And here's the thing. I don't know if his son is. I don't know who his son follows, but like at the same time, like you can't be like, oh, a 15-year-old doesn't really care. You like the online sphere has gotten like very more political in general. Like especially when you have people like Aiden Ross and shit like that. Like there's definitely other people who don't delve into that stuff, like Aisha Speed, Kai Cenat, who operate around the same kind of demographic as Aiden Ross. But for a dad who, for a kid whose dad is a CNN reporter, and for a kid who has a special interest in World War II, it's not hard to guess that he probably is getting, he probably is watching some content from these people.
That's his world. You're deciding he's a racist because he wants...
Especially if he wants to become a cop and... and if he really likes the military too, like what? Like what are you deluding yourself into? Also, what those guys were doing is clearly like a joke. They were clearly just like poking some fun, and they assumed because you are a seemingly left-wing figure in the media that you would at least understand why they're making these sorts of jokes and that they're not trying to be mean or anything. They're just like cracking, a couple quips of being like, oh, he really likes cops, he really likes the military, really likes World War II. Well, does he like minorities? Especially if he wants to be a cop with the history of cop, police violence against minorities throughout history. They're just cracking a bit of a joke. They're not assuming that your fucking son's a white supremacist.
Wants to be a cop. And why does he want to be a cop? He wants to be a cop because he wants to help people, and he thinks that's the best way he can help people. And that's how the Democratic Party talks to men, not just white men, but men. And I get the idea that they thought Tim Walz could what's the term he used, code switch or something. He thought that he could translate the Democratic Party values because he hunts and fishes and owns a gun and was in the army and drinks a beer. At least there was an attempt, but I find it just insane.
And here's the thing, this is not to say that the Democratic Party isn't necessarily great at communicating with young men. You could see how they treated Bernie Sanders back during like the 2016 election and shit like that. They try to undermine like Bernie bros, shit like that, being like, oh, look at these men trying to lead the election while we have Clinton, who's going to be a woman who's going to lead the Democratic Party. Shit like that. Like, they try to play into that fact instead of actually looking at the people's policies and try to make it more about identity in that sort of case. It's very much kind of what they did with Kamala Harris this year, and not in a similar fashion, because they didn't, like, use her to put down... like another male candidate, but you can definitely see it in the way that they treated Tim Walz, like he mentions, even though I feel like he was trying to like downplay what Tim Walz was trying to do, even though by his own logic, the way that, he disagrees with how Democratic Party talks about young men, wouldn't he rather have Tim Walz, code switch and use to like try to bring in young men? Like, all right, like why are you trying to throw him under the bus in that circumstance? But like Tim Walz, you could definitely tell was essentially neutered in the way that he was allowed to operate. You could tell that he wasn't allowed to be as charismatic, and he has even said so himself, that he was very much policed on what he was supposed to do and say. They didn't want him to overshadow Kamala, even though it was very obvious that he was a lot more charismatic and arguably was better at politics, had better policies, should have been the leading man. But they didn't want him to undermine her, even though she wasn't really the right person for the job. And I think and we saw how that played out. Kamala did terrible when it came to the young men demographic. They overwhelmingly voted for Trump, as they tend to do. White young men, who I'm mostly speaking about in this regard, tend to vote more Republican anyways, so it doesn't matter. But like, even then, the people on the fences still either voted for Trump or didn't vote at all in terms of like of white young men. So it didn't exactly work out for them, and it has a big reason to do with their messaging. Like, and it's not like cater specifically to them, but they just didn't have good policies that like a fence-sitting young white men could look at and be like, yeah, this would garner my time to go out and vote for them. No, that sort of shit. And now we have this, and I think this is their way, like especially what these two people are, Micah Efren and Olivia Giuliana. They're essentially, like Democratic content creators online, and they are like, and this is what kind of leads us to this. Now we're gonna kind of cover this at all, but this isn't like another attempt that Dems are trying to do of winning over young men. As you can see here, this is Michael Efren. He is, a political content creator online. So is Olivia Giuliana. Olivia Giuliana, you might have remembered her from the DNC. She was like one of the young Democratic content creators, like TikTokers or whatever, that they tried to get on their side to push a younger vote. And obviously it didn't fucking work. But now they're trying to push this messaging of like, how do we win back young men? And these are not the people to do it. Because these are the same people that push them away. You don't get the people who caused the problem you're currently in to try to fix the problem. They've caused the problem. Like, this is just a terrible way to fucking do it. And most of it is just, like, make good policy. It's not even anything, like, you specifically got to cater to young men about. Just make better policies, fix your messaging, shit like that, where people, like, young men in the middle who neither lean more Republican or Democrat, maybe more centrist, will look at your policies and be like, well, these are just objectively better. Especially when you have like where the Republican Party is now, where they're just objectively worse, but they have a better messaging platform, so they're able to make their bad ideas seem like they're actually good ideas in general, especially when the Democrats don't do anything to push against those. But getting back to the Jake Tapper stuff, this is like the actual part of the podcast that he's referring to.
Demo, young men or youngish men, younger than me men, is especially Gen Z, like is fascinating people in politics, because
it's the crisis of masculinity, and we're on the front lines. We're like you, and we're like you in the Ukraine when it comes to that.
So, and the sirens are going off, and you're just in the hotel eating borscht.
The sirens are going off, and all I can hear is Joe Rogan somehow still. It's unbelievable, the power of that guy. It's unbelievable.
But it is really fascinating. And I have so my son is 15, and I understand why Democrats are struggling so much, because they just don't speak any language that my son speaks. My son games. He plays football. He likes police. He
likes police. Great way to frame that.
Not the band, the institution.
No, not the band. I don't think he knows what the band is.
My
I don't
son
think he has any
likes
idea who
police.
Sting or, no, police, cops. He likes cops, not the TV show.
Like he thinks they're cool. Like, I don't understand. Like, what about a cop?
He likes the military. He likes police. I don't know.
Whoa.
How does he feel about minorities?
He's pro, but I mean, I think the thing is,
like, very obviously they're just kind of like messing with him. They're just cracking a bit of a joke. But it's like, yeah, do you think a 15-year-old who loves the police, who like loves World War II, loves the military, do you not think that he might, have other political influences in his content, like content consumption, shit like that? Especially if he loves video gaming too. There are going to be content creators like out there, like grifters, who are probably going to be able to reel him in with their content. Because there's plenty of like gaming, gaming YouTubers out there who are right wing. Especially, like, he's probably likes Asmongold, honestly. He's probably an Asmongold fan. And if that's the case, get him deodorant. Speaking of Asmongold and deodorant, excellent segue. This is the guy, like, honestly, I don't even know, because I have no idea what Asmongold's fucking demographic even looks like. It might be young men. Honestly, I think it's just like a bunch of like older guys. Maybe. I don't even know. I think what does his demographic look like? I wonder what. Let's see if we can look it up. Asmongold age demographic. Okay. This was from 6 years ago, so it's not accurate. It doesn't necessarily show. At least in some of the top results. No, doesn't seem like it. I don't know. I don't know what his age demographic looks like. I can understand how some young men who like don't like cleaning their rooms might be able to look to him as like someone they like to follow, shit like that. But this is what Asmongold had to say recently about deodorant, as a guy who is essentially the face of maybe not young men online, but definitely men online.
Why would I don't wear deodorant. The last time I wore deodorant is whenever I thought I could wear Axe body spray and girls would like me. I was like 14. I don't wear fucking deodorant. You know why? You know why I don't need deodorant? Because no, I don't need it because I'm not fat. Fat people need deodorant because they smell bad because all the Cheetos are coming through their skin.
Yes, a guy who lives like Asmongold definitely doesn't smell bad. A guy who literally lives in fucking garbage doesn't smell bad. Who used a dead rat as an alarm clock. He slept next to a dead rat for years. He doesn't think that he smells bad. You know, this is the this is the leading figurehead of the conservative movement online. This intellectual oh my fuck, does he honestly think that he doesn't smell like shit? Like, I have never been in proximity with Finn Asmongold, but if you were to talk to a normal person and be like, hey, let me get your opinion on this. If there was a guy who never left his house, who admitted recently that he did not like walk, that there was a period of time where he did not do laundry for years, where he literally lives in a like trash, like a house covered in his own trash, that he used a dead rat as an alarm clock for years. Do you think that guy does not smell bad? They would say no, he probably smells like shit. It wouldn't matter if you're fat or not. That's not how that works. Oh my god.
No, absolutely not. You got the grease going through. Not that doesn't happen with me. That's not like
Sure,
me at all.
surely.
Bro. Like, why would I?
Surely that doesn't happen with Asmongold. The guy who literally had a roach crawl on him. The guy who fucking slurps down soda rather than water. Who was disgusted by water and used soda as a chaser. That guy doesn't smell bad. And even then, I feel like that last one was just like him playing into the bit. But like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't even know if like, honestly, he could be, if I wanted to be charitable, he could be memeing. I don't think he is, because he lives the way that he does. And if you think he couldn't get any more disgusting, he has now officially joined Kick. You know, the pedophile platform. You know, the platform that has literally been like the home for creators to create a CP or to record themselves having sex with other people without their consent, without their knowledge that they were being filmed, at the very least. You know, that platform that allowed that shit to happen for like way longer than it should have. You know, the same platform where Aiden Ross was willing to show porn to his underage audience. You know, that one? The one that, yeah, he's joined that. And it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I feel like this is just Asmongold realizing that he probably doesn't have that much of a life form, like a lifespan on Twitch with the way that he has been conducting himself. And I think this is more like a fallout plan. I could definitely see that being the case, because like, if you're going on Kick, to me that is a sign that like things are not going to get better in terms of your rhetoric, the way that you conduct yourselves. It's arguably only going to get worse. Honestly, so it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I feel like this will probably end in a similar fashion to what happened with Aiden Ross. Honestly, I think Asmongold might at least be somewhat smarter in that case, where he will realize that showing his Kick chat on his Twitch stream is probably not for the best. So he probably will avoid that, but we'll just see how far he goes, to the point where he could honestly get banned off Twitch. We'll just have to wait and see, honestly. But yeah, that's all I really had to say on this matter. Hello everyone, thank you for watching today's video. If you would like to see more videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you would like to check out my gaming videos, you can follow me at FruitySaur Gaming. And if you'd like to check out my podcast where I talk about anime, comics, movies, video games, and even pro wrestling, you can follow me at The Fruit Basket. But that's all I had to say for today. I'd like to thank you all for watching once again, and I will see you next time.